Welcome to the deep dive. You know, the ultimate puzzle for any designer, anyone trying to build something great, is how do you make something people truly love? Not just put up with, but genuinely find useful, maybe even delightful.
Right.
Well, the shortcut, if there is one, it lies in understanding your user deeply. So today we're doing a serious deep dive into need finding and user research techniques. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Our mission isn't just to list methods. It's to arm you with the critical insights, the aha moments that make them really work. We're pulling key ideas straight from human-computer interaction studies to help you design experiences that genuinely hit the mark.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what we're really talking about is the absolute foundation of innovation. It's often the difference between a product that just, well, exists and one that actually thrives. User research isn't just a step you tick off a list, it's fundamental. It stops you falling into those really common traps where, a brilliant sounding idea just crashes because it doesn't meet a real human need.
Yeah, building the wrong thing.
Exactly. It's making sure you're building the right thing, not just building the thing right.
Yeah.
And honestly, it all comes down to this one profound, sometimes kind of uncomfortable truth.
Yeah.
You are not the user.
You are not the user. Okay,
Right.
that hits home. It's bold. Yeah,
Right.
often uncomfortable. But how do you balance knowing that distinction with still having, real empathy for your users?
Well, it's precisely because you're not the user that empathy becomes so incredibly critical. Think about a common mistake, maybe a super advanced medical device, right? Designed by brilliant engineers for, let's say, busy doctors.
Okay.
Now, if those engineers only think about their own world, tech-savvy, quiet office, lots of time they'll completely miss the reality of a doctor needing patient data now, under pressure, maybe one-handed, wearing gloves, in a noisy, sterile room.
Totally different context.
Totally. Their needs, their context, their whole way of thinking, it's fundamentally different. And that gap, that's where even the most amazing tech can just completely fail.
That's a really powerful example. And it brings us right to this point. When we say the user, it's tempting to think really narrowly, right? Just the person clicking the mouse or tapping the screen. But Holtzblatt and Jones, way back in '93 actually, they really pushed us to think much bigger, like a whole ecosystem. They expanded that definition way beyond direct interaction.
Yeah, they did.
It includes people who manage the direct users, anyone who gets output from the system, people who test it, the folks making the buying decisions, even people using competing products. It's a much wider net than you might think at first.
Exactly. And Eason, back in '87, gave us some useful categories to structure that thinking. He talked about primary, secondary, and tertiary users.
Right?
Your primary users. They're the frequent, hands-on people. Think of someone using your app all day long for their job.
Got it.
Secondary users. They use it occasionally. Or maybe through someone else, like a manager checking reports the system generates.
Okay, less direct.
Yeah. And then tertiary users. These are people affected by the system. Maybe they influence its purchase, but they might never actually touch it. Could be the legal team checking compliance, or even a family member whose life is impacted by the product.
So the practical takeaway here for you listening is you've got to have this really broad view of user right from the start. It's not just the clicker, it's everyone touched by or influencing that whole experience.
Precisely. And like we said, user research isn't just, a phase. It's the core of understanding the big picture context of users and what they actually need. The whole point, really, is to make digital experiences that people genuinely value.
Love using, ideally.
Yeah, love using. Good research helps in, I'd say, three main ways. First, it nails down who we're designing for and in what situations. Second, it's vital for getting honest feedback on usability, finding those little friction points. And third, maybe the most important bit, it helps us figure out what better actually looks like from the user's perspective, not just what we think is better.
That sums it up perfectly. Okay, so we get the why. But the big question is always how. How do we actually get this understanding? There are so many methods, it can feel a bit daunting.
It could seem that way.
But the sources give us a really useful way to frame it. It helps to think about research methods along three main dimensions, or axes.
Right, the framework.
First, there's attitudinal versus behavioral. This is super important. What people say versus what people do. You might ask someone, hey, do you want this complex new feature?
And they'll often say yes.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. But then you watch them actually use the thing, and maybe they constantly avoid it, or they've invented some crazy workaround just to not use that feature. That gap between say and do, gold mine.
Total gold mine.
Second dimension. Qualitative versus quantitative. Qual gives you that deep understanding of a few people, the why, the rich stories. Quant gives you measurable data from lots of people, the how much or how many.
Numbers versus narratives, basically.
Pretty much. And finally, the context of use. Where and how are you doing the research? Is it in a sterile lab, or are you out there in their actual office, their home, wherever they're using the product?
Huge difference.
These dimensions aren't just academic labels, they're like your compass for picking the right tool.
And what's really interesting is the real magic often happens when you start combining these. You might run a big quant survey to spot a pattern,
Right.
then follow up with some qual interviews to understand the why behind that pattern,
Okay.
and then maybe observe actual behavior in context to see if what people say matches what they do. It's really just one method.
Absolutely. Okay, with that framework set up, let's dig into some of the most, well, personal ways to connect. Interviews and focus groups. Interviews are just crucial because, well, some things are really hard to figure out just by watching someone.
You need them to tell you.
Exactly. Interviews help answer those why questions,
Mm-hmm.
and they let people reflect on things that maybe happen rarely, stuff you'd likely miss if you were just observing.
And when you talk interviews, there are basically three main flavors, each good for different things. First, structured interviews.
Okay.
These are best when you already know your topic pretty well and you want to confirm facts or get consistent data you can compare. Lots of closed questions like rate your health, excellent, good, fair, or poor. Very consistent.
Makes sense.
Then you've got unstructured interviews. Much more open. It's almost like a conversation, really. Questions pop up naturally. You might start super broad. Tell me about using our tool yesterday. You just explore. Great for discovery.
Less predictable results, I guess.
Definitely. Which
Yeah.
can be good. And often, the best approach is somewhere in the middle. The semi-structured interview. You go in with a list of key, open-ended questions, your main topics.
But you're flexible.
Totally flexible. You can probe deeper, follow interesting tangents. It balances structure with discovery. It's often the sweet spot.
That flexibility sounds key. But I can just hear someone thinking, isn't a survey way faster? What's the unique payoff of a direct interview versus just sending out a questionnaire?
Well, surveys are great for the what. What percentage of users click here, what features they use most. Interviews are unbeatable for the why.
Ah, the why.
Exactly. A survey might tell you 70% drop-off at step 3. An interview can tell you why. Maybe they're worried about privacy. Maybe a button label is confusing. Maybe they just don't trust that part of the process. You get that rich, nuanced story.
Motivations, feelings.
Yeah, motivations, mental models, lived experience. The trade-off, of course, is time. Interviews are intensive, so you usually work with smaller groups.
That's clear. And when you are doing them, the process seems pretty straightforward based on our sources. First, prepare. Get your questions ready, make them open-ended, maybe test them out.
Pilot them, yeah.
Second, schedule and arrange. This takes real effort time, logistics, sometimes even thinking about safety.
Don't underestimate the logistics.
Third, conduct the interview. Record the audio, take some loose notes, but mostly listen. Follow your intuition, let silence happen. Sometimes people need that pause to formulate a really insightful thought.
Right. Don't rush to fill the silence.
And finally, analyze. Look for those themes, those patterns. Oh, and a quick note on tools. Face-to-face is often ideal for nonverbals, but video chat is a good substitute. Avoid email or text, though. Typing just kills the flow.
Absolutely. The spontaneity is lost.
Okay, so individual interviews give us that deep dive into one person's world. But what if you want a broader range of opinions, or you want to see how ideas bounce off each other? That sounds like focus groups.
Exactly. That's where focus groups shine. You bring together maybe, 3 to 10 people and discuss questions together. Careful group selection is key here. Depends if you want diversity or a very specific viewpoint. They definitely have pros. You get a wide range of views pretty quickly. And sometimes the disagreement or debate between participants, that can be incredibly revealing.
Shows you where the tensions are.
Precisely. Uncovers assumptions. The interaction itself can spark ideas you wouldn't get one-on-one. Especially good for social products where peer influence matters.
But there must be downsides.
Oh, yeah. You need a really skilled facilitator. Someone who can manage the group, keep things on track, make sure everyone gets heard. They take time, so you can't cover as many topics in depth. And yeah, you sometimes get that one person who tries to dominate the conversation.
The monopolizer.
A monopolizer.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. The facilitator needs to handle that gracefully.
So it really highlights the contrast. Individual interviews, deep, private insight, focus groups, Broader feedback shows group dynamics, but needs careful management, and you might face issues like people presenting a certain image of themselves.
Right. That presentation of self can be a factor.
Okay, but what if we want to go even deeper than just talking? What if we could actually step into their world, watch them in action? That sounds like contextual inquiry,
Yeah.
CI.
Ah, yes. Contextual inquiry. It's a field research method. Basically, conversations while the user is doing their actual work in their own environment.
So not in a lab.
Definitely not in a lab. It's used heavily for defining requirements, planning, driving design. Especially when you're starting something new or adding big features. It's about basing design on what people do, not just what they say they do.
Okay, so let's unpack context. What does that really mean here?
Context is, well, it's all the interrelated conditions surrounding something. For CI, the approach is simple but powerful. Go to the user. Observe their real work. Use their real documents, tools, artifacts, and talk to them while they are working. It's considered way more reliable than just asking them later.
Any examples spring to mind?
Oh, loads. I remember watching someone use this complex database system. They had this incredibly elaborate multi-step process involving copying data to a notepad, then pasting it somewhere else. Turns out there was a single button that did the whole thing. Yeah, they just didn't know it was there or didn't trust it. You'd never find that out by just asking them, how do you do task X? You have to watch. You look at everything. The physical workspace, the actual tasks, the workarounds, their goals, the language they use, the tools, how they collaborate, even the company culture.
So why? Why go to all that trouble for context?
Because it helps you design something that fits into the entire fabric of their work, not just a single task. It's about integrating your solution smoothly, making their whole process more consistent, effective, efficient. It means you're designing from data, from observation, not just opinions or a feature checklist someone negotiated.
That's a really important distinction.
It is, and it highlights the huge difference between CI and other methods. Interviews, surveys, they give you summary data, extractions, what customers say, what they think they want. It's subjective, relies on memory. Contextual inquiry gives you ongoing experience, concrete data. It shows what users do. It's objective, it's spontaneous, happening right there. It reveals what users actually need. Often, it's quite different from what they say they need.
So how do you actually do it? It sounds like you could easily interfere just by being there.
That's where the partnership idea comes in. It's key. This isn't a standard interview where you're the expert asking questions. It's more like a master-apprentice relationship.
The user is the master.
Exactly. The user is the expert on their work, the master craftsperson. You're the apprentice trying to learn. You build this partnership by sharing control, actively suspending your own assumptions, asking really open-ended questions like, what are you doing now? Is that what you expected? Why did you do that? Let them lead. Listen hard. Watch the nonverbals.
And capturing all this, it must be tricky.
It needs planning. Video recording, screen capture software are great. If you can swing it, having a second person just taking notes is amazing. The key is to clearly separate what the user says, what the user does, and your own thoughts or interpretations. Got to write fast.
Makes sense. And analysis.
Happens on multiple levels. You analyze a bit in the moment, asking clarifying questions. Then much more deeply afterwards, reviewing recordings and notes. Group analysis is also really valuable, brings different perspectives together, helps build a shared understanding in the team.
And if you need them to do specific tasks.
Make them real-world tasks. Realistic, compelling, not too easy, not too hard. And definitely avoid anything trying to be funny or potentially offensive. Keep it professional and focused on their work.
Okay, so CI gives us this incredibly rich, observed data about what users do. Now, how do you take all that insight about who your user is and synthesize it, make it usable for the whole team? That sounds like personas.
Exactly. Personas. They're basically hypothetical archetypes. Fictional characters, yes, but crucially, they are based on your research data. They are not just made up.
Not just stereotype.
Absolutely not. They represent a specific type of person in a specific role with specific characteristics you discovered in your research. You give them a name, maybe a photo, a backstory, goals, frustrations. It makes the data human.
So what makes a persona effective?
Well, they move you from abstract data to something relatable. A good persona represents a major user group you identified. It highlights their key needs and expectations. It paints a clear picture of how they might interact with your product. It can even help uncover features that lots of different user types might need, those universal features. It just brings realistic people with goals and values into the design room.
And the big advantage?
Unity, I'd say. They give the entire team a shared understanding, a common language. It helps stop those endless arguments about, Well, my user wouldn't want that. Because you can point to Jane, the persona, and say, what would Jane need here? It provides a concrete reference.
Okay, so how do we actually make them? Is there a process?
There is. Pretty logical, really. Step 1. Dive back into your data interview notes, CI observations, survey results, whatever you have. Look for common threads.
Find the patterns.
Step 2. Identify those patterns in clusters. Group users with similar behaviors, goals, pain points. Step 3. Create the persona. Give them that photo, name, description. Detail their characteristics, their problems, their goals. Step 4. Share it. Make it visible. Use it in discussions.
And what makes one good?
A good persona really reflects the research data accurately. It shows the current state, not just some idealized future. It feels realistic. It should pose a clear challenge or focus for the design effort. And fundamentally, it just has to help the team genuinely understand the users better.
Got it. So personas give us the who. What about the what and how of their interaction? How do we visualize their journey with the product? That sounds like storyboards.
Right on cue. Storyboards. They borrow the idea straight from filmmaking. Essentially, they're sequential illustrations showing the series of actions or events a user, often represented by your persona, goes through with the product to achieve a goal.
Like a comic strip for user interaction.
Pretty much. They're visual organizers.
Yeah.
A sequence of images left out to pre-visualize how something will flow, whether it's a website interaction, a training module, whatever.
Why is storytelling useful here?
Because stories are how humans make sense of things. It's a really effective and actually pretty inexpensive way to capture and explore user experiences. It keeps things human-centered. And it's great for iteration. You can sketch out a storyboard quickly, get feedback, change it, try again.
What makes up a storyboard in this context?
The basics are still there. You need a character, often your persona. You need a scene, the context where the interaction happens. And you need a plot, a sequence of events, the user's goal, the steps they take, the problem, the resolution.
And the benefits of doing this?
Oh, plenty. It helps you organize your thoughts, plan the system flow much more clearly. It's a fantastic way to communicate complex interaction ideas to your team or stakeholders. And frankly, getting the flow right in a storyboard saves a ton of time and effort later in detailed design and development. They often grow directly out of the user scenarios you develop.
Okay, we've hit some really core, powerful techniques there. Interviews, focus groups, CI, personas, storyboards. But obviously, the user research toolkit is massive, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are loads of other methods, and knowing when to use, which is, well, part of the skill.
For example, surveys. We mentioned them earlier. Classic method, just a list of questions to pull specific data from a group. But the key is appropriate design.
Garbage in, garbage out otherwise.
Totally. There are principles for good online surveys, clear instructions, make the first question easy and interesting, don't go wild with colors, keep formatting consistent, make sure it works across platforms, clear calls to action. Get that wrong, and you're just wasting people's time and getting bad data.
True. And beyond surveys, just rattling off a few others shows the sheer variety. You've got usability lab studies, controlled environment, observe users doing specific tasks.
Right.
Ethnographic field studies, kind of a broader umbrella that includes things like CI, immersing yourself in the user's world. Participatory design, where users actually become co-designers.
Very collaborative.
Yeah. Then there's eye tracking. Literally measures where people look on a screen, reveals subconscious attention, usability, benchmarking, measuring performance against set standards. You can do diary or camera studies, have people record their own experiences over time, collecting customer feedback through support channels, reviews, etc. Desirability studies, getting users to associate emotional words with designs. Clickstream analysis, looking at website navigation logs.
Data.
And of course, A/B testing, sometimes called multivariate or bucket testing. Scientifically testing different design variations by showing them to random user groups and measuring which performs better on key metrics. What's fascinating, really, is that this variety means there's almost always some way to get the insights you need. It just depends on your specific question, your resources, your timeline.
What a tour. Okay, so from realizing you are not the user to understanding who users are in a broader sense, then digging deep with interviews, focus groups, stepping into their world with contextual inquiry, creating personas, visualizing journeys with storyboards, and then that quick look at the wider toolkit.
Yeah, quite a journey.
We've really traced that shift from just assuming, to actively going out and discovering user needs. The core message seems crystal clear. User research is fundamentally about understanding the who, what, and why, so you can design things that actually work for people, things that resonate. So what's the main thing for you listening to take away?
Well, if we zoom out one last time,
Yeah.
maybe think about this. Consider applying just one of these techniques, even in a small way, maybe a couple of quick, semi-structured interviews, or just observing someone use a product or service, or maybe even one you use regularly.
Interesting.
You might uncover some really surprising insights. It could totally shift your perspective on why that product is designed the way it is, or maybe even what its real purpose should be. Understanding the user.
Yeah.
It's not just for designers, it's a mindset, really. A way to turn almost any challenge into a chance to create something genuinely human-centered in pretty much any field.
A powerful thought to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.